Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are all of you doing? That's not quite loud enough. How are you doing again? That's the response we're looking for, especially when our solo is solo. All right, my tech booth crew, mighty Nick and Miranda back there. One, I need my house lights down. We're going downtown. All right, parents, this is your opportunity right now to take the photos that you want of all of Jazz Ensemble 1. Ready? Jazz Ensemble 1, I can't believe it's already December. I definitely can't even believe that it's almost the end of 2011 and the beginning of 2012. And Pacifica is actually in its second decade. I mean, it's just unbelievable how fast time is flying. But it's a pleasure to have all of you here this evening for our annual winter concert. It's actually our 11th winter concert here at Pacifica. We are going to start tonight with a wonderful piece by the composer Irving Berlin. And some background information on Irving Berlin, in case you didn't know. He actually immigrated to New York from Russia in 1893. He actually worked as a street singer and a waiter in New York in his younger years. But later on, and as he advanced and went on to his career, Berlin actually composed nearly 1,500 songs, spanning almost every songwriting idiom of the first half of the 20th century. Blue Skies was actually composed in 1927. And it is considered one of the most defining elements of American culture. And it was used as a catalyst to jumpstart his career. Please enjoy our open solos for this particular song and Blue Skies. Give them another round of applause, please. I'd like to take a moment and introduce you to some of the personnel, most especially some of the new personnel in the group. But before I do that, I do have a special thank you, and that is to DJ Toledo. DJ, would you raise your hand, please? Wave out to the audience. DJ started the Health Academy in the mid part of the semester, and unfortunately he wasn't able to stay in Jazz Ensemble 1 as our lead trombonist, but he was kind enough to come back and play several charts to fill in some of the gaps, because without him things can become a little complicated and such. And so with the transition and everything else, it was kind that DJ came out and on his own time volunteered to come out and play for us. So give DJ a huge round of applause for coming through and joining us this evening. I would like all of the new personnel, anybody who's new as of this semester, to please stand up and or wave out to the audience, please. Give them a huge round of applause. Andrea came in brand new on baritone sax. She's actually a clarinetist in our symphonic band. We had Anthony come out, and Anthony came to me at the beginning of the semester, and it was, by the way, Miss Rogers, I've never touched a horn in my entire life, but I'd like to learn how to play. Very enthusiastic, and he's had a huge learning curve over the last 14 weeks. He deserves a huge round of applause, because he's coming in having never played before. Ty joins us as a transfer student from another high school, coming in on trumpet 4, but his main instrument was actually French horn a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And then Joseph, directly next to him as our third trumpet player, came in actually last semester, what was it, April, right around April, end of April, somewhere in there. Yeah, moved in from Mississippi and came in and joined us as a brand new member. Then we also had a couple of more brand new members. Andrea on piano. Andrea, give a huge wave. 9 years of piano, Andrea? 9 or 8? 7. I was giving you more credit. Okay, well, you can add an extra half a semester. And then, of course, Andrew, would you come out from the wings for a moment? Andrew Ortega, coming in on piano also. He's also involved in Mr. Wingland's Blues Club, which meets every now and again and such. And so Andrew's a part of that as well. So it's great to have all of our newcomers. Now, for all of my returning members, can I have all of my returning members wave out to the audience? Say hi to Mom and Dad. The returning members come with more and more experience as each semester passes. We did have a transition, actually, in our horn section, and that is Joseph Gomez on the end. Joseph, wave out to the audience, please. He actually moved in from playing guitar last year to tenor sax this year. So we've added him in on tenor too, and that is Jazz Ensemble 1. Give them another round of applause before we begin our next set of selections. And I believe the next one, if I'm not mistaken, is Dreamsville on the program, correct? Bingo, good. My handout is in order, thank goodness. Henry Mancini, huge composer for the film and the television industry. But believe it or not, my students don't even know this yet. And by the way, I will be quizzing you on this a little later on in the semester. They're always on the lookout for a pop quiz for me. Henry Mancini's first instruments. Piano was not actually his main, it was his secondary. Take a shout out as to what you think his primary was. I heard piccolo. I heard trumpet, saxophone. Believe it or not, flute and piccolo were his primaries at the beginning. And then he switched over to the grand piano. But he actually played in a youth ensemble for several years. And of course, later on, he would go in to study music at many prestigious schools. But he moved into the profession of television and film arranging. And Mancini is known for many works, including Moon River from Breakfast at Tiffany's to Baby Elephant Walk, and many television themes, including The Pink Panther. Very popular in that jazz realm. But Dreamsville actually comes from Mancini's early career for a television show. Now this one's going to go out to the audience. What television show do you think Dreamsville was associated, thinking about Henry Mancini as a composer? Any guesses? Mid-1950s? Detective? Black and white? Peter Gunn. Very good. It's actually associated with the television show Peter Gunn. And Dreamsville was actually associated and always used as the background music to describe the very lovely Eddie Hart, which was played by Lola Albright. That was Peter Gunn's love interest on the show, and they always played this particular song. So Manny Perez on tenor sax is gonna try and get you in the mood for a little love. Henry Mancini's Dreamsville. Give him another huge round of applause. Yay, Manny. Our next piece on this evening's program, Good King Wenceslas, it actually comes from a popular Christmas carol. And if you don't know the background of the story, it depicts the story of this king who, on the second day of Christmas, December the 22nd, actually gives alms. Now, maybe you know, students in the audience, alms, A-L-M-S. Gives alms to a poor peasant. What is an alm? Feet down. Present, good guess, not quite. Bingo, money or food for those who are extremely poor, peasants. Henceforth. This legend is actually said to be based on the life of St. Wenceslas I, or the Duke of Bohemia, who lived from 907 to 935. Listen to actually how we depict the story and the movement, as you'll hear lots of 16th notes coming from various segments of our ensemble. Good King Wenceslas. It is an extremely technical piece. You have to constantly keep listening, and then there's obviously the canon in the middle, in which, you know, trumpets take a lead, and then trombones come in, and saxes come in, and they have to continually keep listening and adjusting. Congratulations to Andrew on his mini little solo in there on piano. Give him another round of applause, please. And now, of course, we get a little more of ho, ho, ho. Yes, Santa Claus is coming to town. You're going to enjoy the ride with this one. This is a neat little arrangement, including Kevin Davis soloing in the midst of it. So give Kevin a little bit of encouragement here.
Oh, dude, I can totally do it. I can see the rolling your eyes like.
Give him a huge round of applause. give Kevin, Leah, and Manny another round of applause. Nice little solo in there, Kevin. And then Manny and Aaliyah did a little duet there in the beginning. And then Andrew, take another bow for your last 2 bars. Yay. All right, we transition and move ourselves all the way to the 70s and 80s. And the Doobie Brothers. Yeah, we're gonna Doobie. I like the Doobie Brothers. I've done a couple of arrangements of the Doobie Brothers. And the 1978 album, Minute by Minute, was an unexpected success for the Doobie Brothers. They weren't expecting it to be as big of a hit as it was. The title song, Minute by Minute, was co-written by Michael McDonald, and it actually soared to the top of the music charts for 5 consecutive weeks, and stayed at the top of the charts for nearly 2 years. But also on the album was a song co-written by Michael McDonald and Kenny Loggins. Band, take a guess as to what the name of the tune was? No, we're with the Doobie Brothers. We're not way back in nursery rhymes. No, McDonald doesn't count. Michael McDonald, Kenny Loggins, we played it. You always love to play it. What a fool believes. Bada bing, bada bang, bada boom. Audience got it. Okay, and that was actually the band's second #1 hit off the album. And actually, that particular album earned both Michael McDonald and the Doobie Brothers, they earned a Grammy for Record of the Year for their songwriting duo. And it was the duo with Kenny Loggins. And they went on to make some other wonderful hits before, unfortunately, they broke up. The case with many rock ensembles. Darn. But it was good while it lasted. We are going to do some open soloing in this one, so pay attention to all of the people who are about to solo. And if you haven't noticed, we did something a little bit different in our arrangement for soloing. Instead of leaving the mics within the sections and giving the students a little bit of comfort, kind of like Linus and his blanket, you know, Linus from the Peanuts. Always had his blanket with him and everything else in between. We took the blanket away, so they actually come up to the mic with no music at all. And we spent a lot of time this semester really focusing on the ears and listening, and really focusing on how to create chord structure and how to listen back to rhythm for your changes and what those are and what that all means. And so you're going to hear them doing a lot of experimenting today with being able to take the sheet music away and just completely listen and go off the top of the brain. Enjoy the Doobie Brothers and Minute by Minute. Oh, give another round of applause for all of our soloists. Very nice. And give another one for Abel. Holy guacamole. Yeah, a little bit of Max Roach in there. He took my advice. You did. He added in that hi-hat, and I saw Mr. Hi-Hat all over again. I was like, oh my gosh, there it is. Yes. Thank you. Teacher wins. All right. Great job, Abel. Great job. All right, our last song of the evening. I can't believe it. We're actually going to be concluding. But it's a goodie. It's a goodie. Bossa Nova and Samba. Dun, 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 dun. Here are my notes. All right. Students in the audience, are you part of the world? I'm looking for a country that Bossa Nova and Samba comes from. Ooh, not Africa. Good guess, wrong continent. Sabrina, Brazil, on the South American continent. Yeah, but my world music students, we will be getting to South America and Bossa Nova and Samba, so it is coming. It's just at the tail end of second semester. You're a little early. We're still in Africa, actually, right now. But yes, Brazil. Bing. And it was a new wave of Brazilian music that was led by Antonio Carlos Jobim and the exceptional guitarist, vocalist. I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce his first name in the Portuguese because I know I'm going to massacre it, but I know his last name is Gilberto. And they began creating a body of music in the 1960s that would eventually revolutionize jazz. It was the next step. Jazz has gone through many evolutions. We started in swing, and then we went to bop, and then there was bebop and hard bop and cool jazz, West Coast jazz, and we had all these little phases over about a 10-year period. Each decade, it's like something new. The 1960s offered us bossa nova and the samba in general. And it's the artist Stan Getz, who was actually my jazz musician. We know he's a tenor sax player. That's not the question. Here's the question. What kind of a musician was he? Was he A, West Coast jazz, B, bebop, C, hard bop, or D, none of the above? D, none of the above. He was actually a combination of cool jazz and bop, particularly bebop, so he's considered a cool bop. There you go. But Stan Getz traveled to Brazil. He worked with Gilberto and he worked with Jobim, and he brought it back here to the United States, adding it to our jazz repertoire. So in the style of Stan Getz, we're going to give you Blue Bossa, featuring many of our jazz musicians from Jazz Ensemble 1. Enjoy.
This Put up here. Put up here.
Give another round of applause for Jazz Ensemble 1, please. For those of you who don't know, that's Gabe. You kind of know that they're in Jazz Ensemble 1 because some of them like to have kind of the wild hair look. You know, all curled out and everything else in between. Or the long hair look, hence Joseph, down over along in there. Totally cool and totally rocking. Please give them another round of applause for an absolutely lovely concert. You may for a moment. Thank you for coming out and enjoying an hour's worth of music. It's not easy for jazz musicians to learn how to transition and move from a swing blues tune and go, okay, we're going to go straight, and then we're going to go into this Doobie Brothers tune and a rock tune, and then, oh, we're going to switch to bossa nova. Which one is a swing, which one is straight, and trying to keep track of it all. And nonetheless, then they have to keep track of their chord and their chord structure and know, okay, how many bars am I soloing, and who do I follow, and wait a minute, where was I at in the mix again? And know all of those things and regulate themselves. And they did an absolutely outstanding job. I mean, I didn't even need my list. If you notice, I keep grabbing my list out of my pocket. So that I do that. One is my list of my remarks that I need to say, and the other is the list of the solo in order in case somebody goes, oops, where was I at in the mix again? They didn't even need me to do that. So you know what? I'm not bringing it out next time. I'm not bringing it up next time. You got it all under control. Completely and totally. But thank you again for coming out and joining us for our winter concert. We have more events coming in the springtime. And actually, these guys have another gig coming up a week from Thursday. They're going to be back at Ramona Elementary for the third year in a row. Ramona has invited us back to do a winter concert for the little ones before they head out to vacation. And every year they request us, and it gets earlier and earlier. And this year the email came October 1st. We want you to come back. And I was like, okay, not a problem. And so we made arrangements. So they're going to gig in another week and a half. And in the meantime, happy holidays and safe travels if you are traveling this coming season and such. And we will see you in the spring semester. Thanks again for coming out. Thank you. And I know that there are many students here who are all seeking extra credit for other classes, including mine. And as I like to say, you're going to go through those double doors and meet us in about 1 minute, and the conga line will begin, where my signature will become the most popular thing in town. I swear someday it'll become famous. All right, thanks again, ladies and gentlemen.